Welcome everyone to the podcast. So this conversation has been long coming and let's get straight into it. So my guest today is David Burns. David is a senior litigation partner at Ronald Fletcher Baker, a law firm in London, shortened to RFB. We've been trying to make this happen for a good 6 months to a year, haven't we, David?
I'd say so, yes.
So let's get straight into the chat. We're going to learn more about David, what he does, and litigation in general, because it is quite a new thing to me. So, David, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Shaz.
How are you doing, first of all?
I'm very good. A little bit nervous, but looking forward to it.
You know what? I was a bit nervous myself. I'm a good nerves always.
Yeah.
Then I saw all the food stalls outside. And I'm I'm going to have a big meal after this.
Yeah, exactly.
David, first thing I ask all my guests to share is their mission statement. You know, what is your mission statement? What is it you do, and why do you do that?
Yeah, John, it's interesting. You sent me the notes of what we were going to talk about, and when you'd asked about the mission statement, it's not something I didn't know I was on a mission, really, to be honest, to begin with, and I hadn't given it much thought because I'm just so busy doing stuff that I just get on with it. But then, it gave me a minute to pause and think about it, and I suppose why I do what I do is just because I enjoy it.
Okay.
You know, I was listening to something, or not listening, actually reading a post from, who's the Diary of a CEO guy? Stephen Bartlett.
Yes.
And he was talking about his own podcast and saying, talking about creating conditions to persist and basically enjoying what you're doing. And that's probably one of the main things for me in my legal career. I just love it. I enjoy helping people, working out solutions to tricky problems, seeing something that a person may be really stressed about, talking them through it and helping them guide them. So that's part of my mission, sort of helping people in difficult legal situations and helping them protect their own position and their own rights, and also acting, helping my own team grow in the team at the firm and sort of having a happy environment for people, I guess.
No, I love that. And just to push a bit more, I guess, what does that mean to you personally?
Well, for me, I think it means a lot to win the trust of the people I act for, so that they can know they can rely on me, that if they've got an issue, they can call me, and me or someone in the team or someone in the wider firm is going to be able to help them out with that issue, to know that, we can be there for people and we can be relied upon is something I value a lot. So the reputation of me and my firm's pretty important, because if you don't have that, you've got a problem. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, with what you do, partner in the firm and specific litigation, twofold question really. First of all, what does it mean to be a partner in a law firm? Yeah. And secondly, what do you actually do, I guess, day to day?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm a part owner of the firm, so I'm an equity partner. So there's me and several others who jointly own and run the firm. On a day-to-day basis, it's a mix of things. So first of all, I've got my own team, so we do disputes and litigation. So there's that side of things which we can chat about. But then there's also sort of overall management stuff, the growth of the firm, what strategic direction we're going in, buying offices, hiring employees. A lot of that will be dealt with by the managing partner, but we'll also get involved and have a say in the sort of overall running of the firm.
Yeah, I would enjoy that, doing that as well. So the direction of the business, as well as growing it internally and making it bigger. And
exactly.
I've seen you do that, and I will talk about that from some of you on LinkedIn recently, I think you posted. But looking at your kind of, when I did the research, looking at your bio, you've been doing this for the longest time.
Yeah.
What led you to get into law in the first place?
Good question. Probably I was no good at maths to begin with, so there's sort of, I narrowed down my options. I couldn't be a doctor. Forget finance, forget accountancy, forget anything to do with science.
Yeah.
So then I was left with, well, there was a few choices. There's probably psychology. I'm into it. I like psychiatry, psychology, the sort of interaction of that, but I also was attracted to law. I went and did some work experience with my cousin in Belfast, and he was acting on behalf of criminal defendants at the time. And that's actually what I ended up doing for, I don't know, from 2006 to 2013-ish. I was acting on behalf of people who are alleged to have committed criminal acts. And I love that. I was interested in it. Again, I developed good relationships with those clients, where I would help them. Some of them, unfortunately, were repeat offenders. Um, but, I learned a lot from that. I ended up doing jury trials, so I would be dealing with a lot of difficult cases. But it was really interesting, very varied, and something I got a huge amount of enjoyment out of. So that was where I sort of started in criminal law in Tottenham, in a firm called Wilson's. And then I moved on to Ronald Fletcher Baker in 2010. Did a few years of criminal law there. And then I don't know what caused me to shift. The criminal law is generally for defendants funded by the government and legal aid. And they were making a lot of cuts to the amount of legal aid payments they would make. So it was becoming more and more difficult to make it financially viable. Yeah. There's obviously still some brilliant criminal defence lawyers out there, but it's difficult financially. And so I made a jump. I decided to move into sort of property and commercial litigation stuff.
Were you, with RFB, were you headhunted, or was it an opportunity that you saw and joined?
That's a good question. I had actually used RFB. One of the old school lawyers, Michael Mitchell, before then when I bought a flat. So I knew of RFB, and I think a colleague of mine said, "Oh, they're hiring." So I thought, "Oh, let me go there." And a few of us moved over from my previous firm to Ronald Fletcher Baker.
Okay, fair enough. Now I just want to mention as well around criminal law. I've encountered that once in my life.
What did you do? Are you going to admit it or not?
It was crazy. Listen, I believe there's a defence for every offence. Mm-hmm. But what happened was I was in a city that I've never been to before, so unfamiliar with the roads, and I went past a red light on the traffic light.
Right.
It happened, and I wasn't speeding, thankfully, but I just went past. But it caused like a domino effect of an uninsured car hit me, they then hit someone else, they hit someone else. It caused a bit of an issue, right?
Right.
But we stopped, the police came, and I thought it was kind of all dealt with or, settled. I then get a call from the police from Nottingham saying, "You've got to come to an interview under caution." And I'm like, "Okay, what does this mean?" He goes, "Well, it's voluntary. If you don't come, we'll send you a warrant." I was like, "Okay, well, that means I have to come." So then I got a solicitor. But even my solicitor was like, "Look, you should be fine. You got a clean license. You got a good job. No other issues. Da-da-da-da-da." Ends up then I go to the police interview, and the guy was a bit strict. He was like, "Look, here you go. You've done it. And you've caused this many issues." But even then, my solicitor was, "Look, you probably get a fine and maybe some points because your first offence, your license is clean."
Yeah.
Ended up having to go to court. And they were like proper serious. What saved me, David, was that whoever was behind me, they had some dash cam footage, which showed for 5 minutes I was driving absolutely perfectly, and it was just laps. It wasn't me trying to skip the lights. It wasn't anything else. It was just a lapse. So in the end, I got points and a fine. But that process and speaking to the criminal lawyer back and forth really helped me understand what they do and how useful it is. Because they said you could have legal aid or you can have someone in-house, but it's just not going to help you based on how serious they're taking it. So yeah, I didn't say I got away with anything because I guess it was my fault crossing the red light, but it was unintentional, but it caused a lot of other problems.
Yeah, this is the thing. It can escalate quite quickly. Just a small mistake, and sometimes that does happen. You see it in people's lives. Like, even for example, take mortgage forms. If somebody makes a slightly inaccurate statement in a mortgage form, there's a potential that could become a fraudulent act, or they could allege that there's been a fraudulent statement with intent to gain, something like that. So small things can have big consequences, as you found out, and you do need people on your side. And there are some occasions where I've acted on behalf of defendants, say fights with police or whatever it is, and inside I'm thinking, yeah, you've done it, haven't you? You've probably committed the offence. And 3 police officers aren't going to lie. And then you get the CCTV footage and you're like, oh God, he's actually telling the truth. I had judged it wrong, not judged it. I wasn't the judge. I was acting on his behalf. But internally, I thought he's probably did this. And it turns out sometimes your suspicions are incorrect. So it's important to have people on your side in those scenarios.
Yeah, no, really, I really appreciate the support I had from the team then. And when people are looking to work with litigation lawyers,
Mhm.
I guess some work on fixed fee and some work on, they charge based on what's at hand.
Yeah.
Um, and I can relate that to my industry in mortgages, where you've got people who don't charge fees, people who charge a lot, people who charge in the middle, and there is always a difference in quality.
Yeah.
Is it the same in your world, or how should people look who to
Yeah,
work
so
with?
it depends on the case. So for conveyancing cases, for example, often they will be just on fixed fees. But for some of the stuff that I deal with, say if it's a landlord and tenant dispute about something, then sometimes it can be dealt with by one letter. One letter and a response, and the case could be finished. Whereas another case could be a few years of correspondence and court proceedings. So it may take 24 months. But what I try to do pretty much straight at the start I'll try that again. What I try to do at the start of any case with clients is give them, first of all, break it down into stages to say, like, you're at this stage, it's pre-action, I budget this amount for this first stage. This is what you're likely to be in for. And as an overall estimate, if this thing was to go worst case scenario, this is the likely phase that you could be in for, so that they know straight away. Because sometimes I hear phrases like, oh, it's the principle of the matter. And it always worries me a little bit, because it's like, well, it's the principle of it. Okay, but let's say this dispute is worth £20,000. To litigate this is going to cost you £40,000. So do you really want to do that? Is it commercially worth it? Because I'm not in the business of taking fees from clients in circumstances where I don't think I'm going to be able to add value and to get a good result for them. So I'll often be quite frank and upfront right at the start, so that they know the score.
Yeah, I think there is that balance of not working for free, of course, but also not charging the client if you genuinely know that this isn't going to get the outcomes that you think you want, right?
Exactly.
Okay, brilliant. And we will talk more nitty gritty about work, but I do want to talk about stuff you do outside of work. So we mentioned paddle off air.
We did.
And I know you do BJJ.
Yes.
Which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
And you're I didn't know you're a black belt though.
I am, yeah, I'm a black belt. An older black belt now that only trains twice a week, but a black belt, yeah.
How long did it take you from starting that to get black belt?
Oh, I started in 2011, I think. And so when I get my black belt, was it last year? I think it was last year. Okay. So probably, I don't know, 12, 13 years.
Is that how long it normally takes, or were you a slow learner?
Exactly. A bit of both. I'd say the average would probably be, I'd say 10 or 12 years. I'm probably about average. Yeah, it takes a long while, because it's not a case of, oh, if you learn these moves, you get a black belt, which some other martial arts can be like. This one is, you sort of have to be able to pretty much beat or do well against the majority of white belts, blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, and then hold your own with black belts. So if you're getting beaten up by blue belts still, then you're just never getting a black belt. You have to be able to sort of, demonstrate a pretty decent level of proficiency with peers before you'll get it. So it's quite hard. And they're all good. You put personal trainers that think they're 20 years old. I'm going in there and still getting beaten up on like every Saturday and Sunday.
We know paddle is an expensive hobby, especially in London.
Yeah.
Rugby JJ, does it cost to do
No, it's cheaper. Paddle's far more expensive.
Yeah.
Because say, what's my membership? It's like 80, 90 quid a month, something like that there. And
you pay for the court separate, the hourly rate, or
no?
No, okay.
Nothing else, because you don't have like paddle. You pay for the court.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
You pay for your rackets and all of that there if you haven't bought them for like a couple
200 quid. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But in jiu-jitsu, and especially as I do, there's two types of jiu-jitsu. There's gi, where you're wearing the whole sort of gear, and the other one is no gi, which is just shorts and t-shirt, which is the one I do.
Do they look down on you?
They probably, people that done the gi think it's the more they think it's the better one of the two.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, it's in the short answer, yeah.
And what got you into BJ? Was it more just a self-defense, or just a hobby, or to learn a skill?
Do you know what? I just love any sport. But I was doing football until I was about 30-ish. But then you start to get knocks, and you get a bit older, and you're slower. So then I just moved. I was into that sort of stuff anyway. I was doing Muay Thai, And then I changed that for a few years because I was getting kicked in the head the whole time.
So you went from football to actually a proper full contact.
To a full contact
Your hobby,
thing. Yeah, which I loved. That was in Tottenham when I was living there. So I did it for a few years.
Okay, and I know that you ran or you hosted a networking event with
I did.
BJJ.
I did.
And just to let everyone know, like you tagged people. Like I say, when I saw the post, I'm happy to support. Yeah. Then you started tagging people in. I'm like, is he trying to matchmake or what's happening here? What was that about?
So I was trying to get as many people as possible from the industry. 'Cause I was thinking this would be funny to see if I can get various people down here rolling around on the mats. And I thought I was going to convince you, Tej Singh. I was just seeing if, social shame would get people to attend
Social
the
shame,
event.
Exactly. But it went well, didn't it? I heard it
It went
full
really
house
well. Yeah, full house. Lots of people just getting really stuck in. I think they really enjoyed it. Our coach is brilliant. He's got a really unique way of teaching jiu-jitsu, because traditionally what people will do is you'll have a coach who sits and probably shows some sort of move for 20 minutes and everyone else has to watch and then try and do the move, which is a bit boring because you're sat there watching it.
Yeah.
But what he was doing is he would just start people in a position. So one person's literally on top of the other one,
Okay.
and the person on the bottom try and get out.
Yeah.
And then you have to try and problem solve that issue when someone else is trying to prevent you from solving the problem.
Yeah.
So I think it's a better way of learning and retaining ideas and then, implementing.
I love that you've somehow related BJJ to problem solving and creativity, but that's the kind of person you are, I guess, right?
Yeah. I suppose.
That was a networking event, and I know you attend a lot and you speak a lot on panels. DocuWise, were you there?
Yeah.
You
I
speak,
DocuWise. I did. I spoke in the panel.
How's that? Because the software looks great.
Do you know what? That event was brilliant. One of the best I've been to. That was put on by Jade Shrubsole, who's great, and she's got a really good platform. And I think what made that event was the people that were there. She had all of the auctioneers, Andrew Binstock, lots of them. It's Safe Jersey.
Safe. Adam Lawrence was there.
Adam Lawrence, yeah, he was on the same panel as me. That guy just.
He's very intelligent, isn't he?
He's so intelligent. I'm just listening to him going, my God, how does this man retain all of this knowledge and the stats he can recall? But yeah, he was there. Oliver Adams, who I don't know if you've heard of, he's absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
He was a sort of, I don't know if you call it the headline act together with Safe Jersey. And some of the stuff they're doing sort of...
A lot of volume, aren't they?
A lot of volume. And they've created this joint venture between the two of them somehow, which works brilliantly. They're such different characters.
Yeah.
Safe is like systemized, organized pharmacist who's got everything strategic. And Oliver's, different. He's, I don't know, he's a bit wilder. I suppose he's a bit more ducking and diving, but gets brilliant deals through and seems to do everything himself. So he doesn't have a whole team behind him, but he seems to he's like a one-man army of like 15 people.
Nah, that's cool. So it did look good. I saw the pictures. I messaged Jade saying if you're doing another one, let us know. If it's in the Midlands or anything else, let us know. When it comes to networking events, I guess, how do you find it benefits you? And for people listening, how can they maybe choose the right ones to go to or be a bit more maybe tactical with it?
Yeah, my approach to it is possibly a bit selfish. I go to the ones that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So, for example, the Jade's DocuWise one was primarily around auctions and auction packs and the legal side of that. And I bought an auction myself, and I help a lot of clients involved in disputes about auctions. So it's perfect for me because I'm into it. I enjoy it, and so I don't feel it's a drag when I'm there.
Would you have gone if you weren't on the panel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, because that's a test, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Because then it's not selfish. So.
Exactly, yeah. And I'll go to ones like, say, I go to the Auction Buyers Club stuff. I'm part of that club as well. But the reason I'm part of it is because I just like the people. I enjoy chatting to them, hearing about the property deals. Probably like you when you're doing mortgage deals and you have to get an understanding of what this person is planning with these deals. It's like I'm into it. I love hearing what these people are doing. Some of it's so impressive. Like when you're listening to someone like Adam Lawrence, who's built up 850 properties.
Yeah.
that's gold dust to get to listen to this guy. So
He's got all the experience in the world, you know?
yeah, and the same with say Safe or Oliver Adams. They've been trading properties at auction for so many years that it's just interesting to hear how they do things, and it's some brilliant stories.
It's crazy, and I follow Safe. Obviously, he's been on the podcast, and like you say, he's got it systemized. He'll it's just back to back without not without thought. Obviously, he's got systems in place and processes, but it seems so relentless and just works. The system works. So for him to try anything different in the future probably would be a wrong idea, because
if it's not
works for him.
It's not broken, don't fix it.
I know you're a big fan of Brendan Quinn.
Yeah, Brendan.
We love Brendan.
Yeah, Brendan, the way I sort of see Brendan as like an OG of networking. I know you were there back in the day. I think we've been sponsoring Brendan for probably a decade or so. And he's probably messaged me now. He blows up my phone constantly when he wants
He's
you
like,
to.
Are you free for a call right now, Shaz? Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, and then it lasts for a while.
But it's like 11:30 at night, Brendan. Can we do it in the morning? But the people he gets, the amount of people I can trace back to somehow being linked to Brendan Quinn's events is a lot.
Yeah.
Like he attracts a lot of speakers. He gets a good variety.
And it always sells out. He's always worried the tickets aren't selling.
Exactly,
Brendan, you'll sell out. It always sells out.
Yeah.
What I like about Brendan's event, and Brendan specifically, is that unlike a lot of other events, Brendan lets the speakers and the panel be the show, rather than trying to put his personality on or be the main event.
Yeah.
And that. So I've spoken at the event before.
Yeah, you have. I remember. I think I was there.
You were there, maybe.
Spoke.
Yeah. It was good. I think. Again, I don't believe in luck. I got fortunate where I was speaking, but I ended up hosting because the host wasn't there. I ended up doing a mortgage update because the mortgage broker wasn't there. It became.
I remember it became the Shaz show. Yeah,
it did become
and you were talking about your networking and all
the social media
which
stuff,
was part of it, probably like a penny drop with me on that as well.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I did get some good feedback off that. I think those kind of speeches are different for me because I can talk about mortgages all day.
Yeah.
But
and there's a lot of people doing mortgages. So, I think you have differentiated yourself in that respect with...
West Shaz, I'm everywhere. But so let's say someone is younger, whether they're into law or just a property professional.
Yeah.
How should they choose which events to go to? Because one thing I found... So I was speaking to someone yesterday this week, and she was like, there's a lot of these... I won't name the event. There's a lot of these events coming up. Maybe I'll go to them. And I was pretty frank. I was like, look, they're good events, good people, but once you go to the first 3 or 4, it's the same people and the same crowd. Mm-hmm. You won't really grow much in terms of knowledge. You'll make some friends if that's what you want to do. Yeah. But you'll end up with the same people. Is that what you want? So how can people maybe choose to be more selective, or what should they be doing?
Yeah, from my view, because obviously I have to do a lot of networking just from a work perspective. I don't have to, but I choose to do it. And I don't have a scientific approach, but the way I do it is I'll try lots of different ones out and see how I find them. So I would say to anyone else who's starting out, don't try to be don't overanalyze which ones you're going to go to some, and take action. Yes. Maybe if you've got a month and you want to do 4 or 5, then go to them and see what happens, rather than belly aching about it for a month and not going to any. Yeah. And then I would say you'd start to, hopefully, if they're savvy enough to start to, if there's one where hosts are just trying to sell lots of stuff, that usually puts me off very quickly. If there's a lot of hard selling of VIP this and every course under the sun, then I probably move away from those. And I often judge them as well by the quality of the attendees. If you've got good people who are there, who are actually doing deals, who are actually in the industry, and they're sort of active, then I think that's a pretty good sign.
Something like you said, give it a go, but then actually maybe review and analyze. I've been to 6 this month, which are the top 3 and why, and decide from there. About sales and events, I just want to, because I've never said this before publicly really, I think I used to be really anti, like, you shouldn't sell at events and run to the back of the room. I think it's silly. I think it still is. But I see some events now, and their kind of USP seems to be we don't allow people to do sales pitches. I personally think that might be slightly wrong, in my opinion. As long as the speaker has earned the right to sell. So I say to people, look, I've said this to Tej and others, if you're speaking at an event, and let's say you're towards the end of your pitch, your presentation, literally ask the audience, say, guys, have you found value in what I've said? Yes. Have you enjoyed what I've said? Yes. Am I allowed now to tell you about what I offer? If you've given them enough value in that 15, 20, 35 minutes and they're happy for you to tell them about what your offer is, then do the sales pitch. But yes, when it's some people who do it without earning the right, I think, that's where it's very sleazy.
Yeah, do you know what? You're right, because actually, if I think about it, I'm sort of hypocritical in a way, because when I'm at some of these events, I will be basically selling our services as a firm as well, won't I? I'll be saying what we do, just describing the services we provide, which is basically, I suppose, a form of marketing itself.
It is, but I suppose for both of us, really, we're service providers.
Yeah.
So that is what we're there for.
Exactly, yeah.
So that is a given, but it's when people are selling courses and packages and gold package, bronze, and
I think the thing that turns me off sometimes is if it's I probably react better to a more laid back, soft approach. I think when you get people really sticking it on and trying to sell quite hard, and this offer, you've got 2 hours left. If you don't sign up, it's going to be quadruple the price. I'm like, not sure about this.
Especially when the value is not made up, but essentially is just a figure because it's what they think it's worth.
Yeah.
And because I feel like I'm in sales, partly to a degree, I can tell a sales pitch coming from a mile off.
Exactly.
It puts me, I get really uncomfortable.
So do I. And but I suppose that's just an issue of what we like in terms of what we'll respond well to in terms of sale pitches. But generally, overall though, in terms of the property network and stuff I go to, there's not a huge amount of that. I don't feel like it crosses the line that much. No. And usually what you have is just lots of people there wanting to connect and network, and because it's been so good for my career, the amount of people I've met out of it.
Oh, you're very, very well connected.
I love it. And just because, you develop relationships with all these people, don't you? You either send them work or they send you work. And there's a good feeling from that, just sort of growing your own network of people generally, even outside of work. Same in jiu-jitsu. That's part of the reason why I love Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Is like I spend a lot of time with lawyers. Which is fine, it's good, I'm one of them. But it's good also to have a completely separate, totally unrelated group who think a bit differently. And then actually work can come from that as well, and just other fun connections. Some of my best friends are now all from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
No, I love that. And on that as well, I was trying to maybe share that I went to an event recently. It was in London, fancy kind of event, fancy venue, invite only. Yeah. And it was probably one of the worst experiences I've had, where I've never felt so out of place in a long time. Yeah. And I go to a lot of events. I'm really everywhere. And I'm really pretty welcome everywhere, right? But it was what it was. I didn't know many people there, but that's okay. I can always make friends. I'm quite likable. But everyone you spoke to, they had nothing about them apart from their work. Yeah. And after like the fourth or fifth conversation, I just felt like, is this it? Like, what is it that makes you go? And if it is purely just what you do day to day, that's very sad. Yeah,
I think that applies to if there's anything where you attach your identity to too strongly, even if it's, because I see it on the other side of it. I see it in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where that's just somebody's entire identity in life. They just do that, every single day of the week. And the same with law, or sometimes with litigators as well. They get really caught up in their identity as a litigator. But you definitely, you're a parent usually, or a sibling. Yeah, I think.
What are your values like?
Yeah. What are you into? What do you like doing outside?
And I kept trying to steer the conversation to stuff outside of work. I'd mention paddle, and it would be like they'd bring it back to work. And I'm like, oh god.
By the way, on the topic of paddle,
we're talking about paddle. we talked about sponsored.
We talked about it before we started. But I did it. I just want to say it on it. I did it for the first time 2 weeks ago, and it was surprisingly fun. And there's a guy in my office, Jonathan Chan. He's in my he's a partner as well in the litigation department, and he recently has got big into it. He's only talking about paddle. And he was saying you'll enjoy it, and it was
so much fun.
Surprisingly intense.
Yes.
Competitive. Yep. Because it looks like you're just tipping around a ball and a thing. It's not going to be
that. It's patience. It's a game of patience. Just like make the mistake first.
Exactly.
Don't do tennis shots.
Also a bit frustrating when you smash it straight against the back wall. You've hit it too hard, and it's like, oh, I've done that for the 5th time now. But it's I'd like to get more into the paddle.
It sounds like it's going to be a RFB paddle event at some point.
We should do. Yeah, we should. Should we do?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I've been looking at some venues. There's loads. I think Rocket Paddle in Battersea is the
Okay.
one people are hiring for events and
How
things.
many would you do at an event? How many?
I think you'd have to, well, kind of up to you, but I think you'd probably have to get 3 courts.
Right.
2 courts for like a mini tournament, one for casuals and newbies,
Yeah.
and that's so 8 teams. But you'd have about 50 to 60 people.
Oh, let's do it.
Let's
Because
do it.
Jonathan would be absolutely
Yeah, we can discuss
up
that.
for
That's
it.
not a problem
Right,
at
let's
all.
do it.
But yeah, and on top of networking, connections, and things
Yeah.
like that. Let's talk about LinkedIn.
Oh, yes.
So I know you're big on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I want you to share the story. So I saw you post recently. Were you poorly?
Oh, yes.
And then a young girl helped you.
Oh, yeah.
She mentioned she was into law.
Yes, yes. Katie.
You must have made a good impression, and suddenly she's now joined the team.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell
she
me more.
has. So I was in Barnet Hospital with, I had like Quincy, so I had a really sore throat, to the point where I had to get rushed to A&E. And the doctor actually said, can you put your head against the wall, open my mouth, and he just like injected a massive syringe into the back of my throat. I was like, I seen him pulling out this massive syringe. I was like, oh my God. But anyway, yeah, he syringed me or whatever, and then put me into some separate room. And I was in there with another girl who's now who I know is Katie. I was still trying to do work, so I needed a charger on my phone. I said, can I use your charger? She said, yeah, of course. She lent it to me, and then she was doing a dissertation at the time. And I said, oh, what's it on? Is it law? And I said, oh, right, I'm a lawyer. I work in Ronald Fletcher Baker. And then somehow she said, oh, well, or I don't know who said it, but we agreed for her to do work experience. So she did work experience for a week. And that was like about a year ago. And then she just randomly messaged me on LinkedIn about a month ago and said, oh, any jobs? And I just hired a paralegal, so I didn't actually really have a role for somebody, and I'd hired a bunch of other people through LinkedIn as well. So I thought, no, I need to stop. But then I liked her. I was like, do you know what? She was really good. She impressed on her 1 week work experience, even though it was only a week. So I goes, yeah, come on, we'll have you as a paralegal in the team. And she's doing brilliantly. And her dad is now a client.
Oh, wow, I love that. And that's the power of being nice, basically, and leaving a good impression, right?
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what's happened as a result of that? The amount of paralegals, or not paralegals, they're like, I don't know, final year law students. I'm just getting bombarded. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't take all you paralegals.
You should set up an RFB Academy.
Exactly.
An incubator for the future generation. There you go.
Exactly right. I'll do that as well after the paddle.
But yeah, like I follow you on LinkedIn, and you share these stories, which are clearly not AI and ChatGPT generated.
Oh, yeah, no.
And that's a lot on LinkedIn right now. So I think for me, LinkedIn is full of a lot of fluff a lot of the time, and people exaggerating things that may or may not have even happened.
Yeah.
There's a mortgage broker that I follow, and every post, I'm just like, that's like day 1,000 of things that never happened, and it's very kind of pick me type stuff. But definitely is value in LinkedIn sharing. What's your approach, and how do you decide what I'm going to share this? I'm not going to share this. This is going to benefit the business. This isn't.
Yeah. Do you know what? So it's a work in progress. My LinkedIn strategy for starters. I'm like, I'm no expert on this. I do one person who I watched and liked. He hardly knows me. I've met him on a few occasions. I don't know if you know of him. A guy called Colin Horton.
Oh yeah, the surveyor. Yeah.
Surveyor. Yeah.
Massive arms.
Massive arms. Yeah, exactly. Jack.
Yeah.
But his LinkedIn, I find his LinkedIn posts really impressive, primarily because they're sort of authentic. You can tell it's him.
He's typing it, yeah.
He's typing it. It's his personality. He's sort of, has some humour in them. He's a bit of a laugh, isn't he? So he comes across that way at least. So I sort of started copying him a little bit, or at least his style, that approach, which isn't as common for lawyers because a lot of lawyers keep it strictly legal, which is fine, and some of mine are that, but it's a bit boring, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Not everyone wants to hear about legislative updates all day, do they? I'll do some posts about that. So I guess what I try and do is a mix. I'll do some that are about, like yesterday I did one about absent freeholders and lease extensions and enfranchisement, because I thought, we got a bunch of cases that are randomly just going to court on that, and it's something that certainly in the auction industry a lot of people are buying short lease properties, and sometimes properties without landlords. So I thought I'll write about that, but otherwise I write about any old stuff. My kids, they were doing Lego, so I started writing about that. They wrecked each other's Lego and started getting into a massive war with each other. So it's like, trying to balance parenting with law and growing
the team. And I think I definitely enjoy what you write. Like, I enjoy what Colin writes, and there's a few others. Well, a lot of others. But there's also on the other end, there seems to be like a LinkedIn format, which is I had a glass of water today. Here's what it taught me about business.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, I can't
know.
deal with it.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot.
I get a lot of stick in my jiu-jitsu class about they say that's what I do.
No.
This is it's a tricky balance to get right, because you want to keep like, I'm a lawyer, and ultimately I'm trying to show what our firm's about and what we do as litigators and how we can help people in disputes, but it can't just be that, because it's so boring.
Nothing will stand out.
I put everyone to sleep.
Yeah,
Nothing will stand out. So it's trying to, and then the thing is, not every day is going to be this massively interesting day, is it as well? So it's like.
But one thing I do say to a lot of the younger people, because I'm now an older statesman myself, is, especially with LinkedIn, is people are always watching. So use it as a way that you could get headhunted. So what does your shop window, which is your LinkedIn profile and your post, what does that show people? What are you posting about? So people are always watching. Be mindful of that. Connect with the right people. Comment on. I think commenting is quite underrated.
Yeah.
There's a girl that I follow, Lara Acosta. She's like a LinkedIn queen. I think I'm pretty sure she's the most followed LinkedIn female or something.
Oh, really? Okay.
And she says sometimes her comments get more engagement than her posts, because she'll comment something quite relevant with a bit of actual information and research on someone else's post.
Right.
And suddenly that'll get her traction. So someone could...
And it's sort of giving back as well, isn't it? Because you're acknowledging and giving somebody else, it's their post, and you're helping them on their post. So it's sort of...
Yeah. And the way LinkedIn works at the moment is, again, if you comment on my post, your followers will see it, mine will see it, and it just spreads a little bit like that.
I feel like the sort of, and I don't know, you might know more about this than me. I feel like the algorithms behind LinkedIn have improved, so that some of my audience now will be more the type like targeted people. Like, I'll see a lot of people in the property investor industry, or I did start getting lots of students after the paralegal, but somehow it filters. It seems to somehow get to the relevant people.
I always say, like, the algorithm knows you more than you think it knows.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not really a bad thing. If I get ads for things I'm actually looking for and speaking about, then great. But if I share my information to China, maybe not so great. And what about your thoughts on people that are posting? Here's a question, actually, which is litigation related. So I've always wondered, if things are going through litigation or any kind of legal proceedings, how much can you, if you're involved with it, not from the law perspective, if you're the person doing the litigation, can you talk about things online? Can you name people or not?
Generally, I probably recommend not doing that, just as a general
of course, I wouldn't do it,
if you're involved in litigation, because those posts or whatever you put on social media could if it's in any way detrimental or harmful to you, it could be used as evidence against.
So it can affect the case.
In that case, they could exhibit it to witness statements and use it. So I probably recommend against it. If the matter's already in court and proceeding, then it's probably technically okay to refer to it, because it's in it's in a public forum at that point. If it's, for example, going through a trial where there's the press could be there, for example. But generally speaking, for example, if I reference any general cases that I'm dealing with, it will be in a very generic,
completely anonymous. I've noticed, which is what you have to be.
Way,
and sometimes I think when people do these kind of indirect little digs, sometimes I feel it's probably better to name rather than not, because the ambiguity leads to more. Who is it? I can't talk about it. Well, don't post that.
There is that. I have seen that come up on LinkedIn, and that crosses not just civil litigation disputes, but also criminal litigation issues as well. And the thing is, I suppose, like, it's a free platform, and couldn't be a bigger sort of campaigner for free speech. So if people want to do that, it's their choice, I guess, and then they deal with any consequences that come from it. Personally, it won't be my approach, but
I think my approach normally is let the thing get dealt with, let there be a resolution, and then if you really have a strong opinion, you feel like you're that important that you want to give a press conference, do it.
I think so. That would be my recommendation as well. Sometimes in litigation, I guess some exceptions might be if someone wants to leverage or if they want to put pressure on another side, and so they go public with allegations about something, then they may get a more favourable settlement.
Right.
But that's quite nuanced, and so you need to be careful. You definitely want to check if you've got a lawyer whether that's a wise thing to do or not.
Fine. So yeah, always get your lawyer on side before you decide to post.
I'd say
Think
so.
before you click.
I'd say so.
So you know what? The biggest form of like self-control is typing a post and not posting it.
Yeah.
David, what is a cease and desist in the sense of how legal or how kind of binding is it? In my understanding of cease and desist is it's a letter to say I don't like what you've said or posted, please stop, or else, but it doesn't really mean much. Is that right?
It depends. So that's in defamation. If there's been some sort of slander or defamation where there's been an untrue
I
statement.
have a catchphrase. Sorry,
Go on.
I have a catchphrase. It's only slander if it's not true.
Well, yeah, that is a defence. So one of the defences to slander is if it's true, then it's going to amount to a valid defence. And we have acted on behalf of some clients where they will go public and make various pretty serious allegations against big organisations, confident that they know what they're saying is true. But yeah, cease and desist letters. If, for example, you've made all sorts of slanderous comments or published something about somebody that's totally untrue and is now causing them a lot of financial harm, then you probably do need to take notice of a cease and desist letter, because you might need to cease and desist, or else you're going to get slapped with a claim from some lawyers that are charging a lot of money. So yeah, I wouldn't just throw them in the bin unless you're very confident in your position. There are some people who are outspoken a lot, and so will know how to tread that line quite well. But yeah,
don't ignore the letters.
Don't ignore the letters usually.
Fine. And like, I guess just on that, because it is interesting. Where is the line? For example, I could leave a bad review, or someone could leave me a bad review. I did not have a good experience with Elan Finance, and Shaz didn't return my calls. That might be factually true, but I don't want it on Google. Is that enough cause for a cease and desist for me to send?
No, it's not. So if for example, you had given a crap service and you hadn't been answering the client's calls and you hadn't, you hadn't got the memorial, I'm not saying for a second you would do that, because I know I've heard you talking about client service, which would be something I'd like to chat to you about in a minute. But yeah, if you had done that and they left a bad review, then forget about serving cease and desist letters, because just give them a good try. What you can do with that is, if someone has done that and they've messed up, sometimes providing a response to their review and saying, look, either I apologise, I was having a bad week, or something, to at least explain.
Because on the public facing thing. But you know what one of my friends does? He's got a takeaway. He's got a takeaway in Newport in Wales, and if he gets a bad review, because the thing with reviews is the customer can leave one, you can leave a response, and they can't go beyond that in terms of online.
Right.
So if they leave a review, he'll always leave a comment back that says along the lines of, "Hi, Mr. Jones, I'm so glad that we spoke on the phone and you confirmed it was your fault." Literally, he does that.
And they can't reply to that response. That is one approach. I don't know if it's the best one, but yeah. I think, do you know what? Probably the best answer to that type of problem is what you do already, which is provide a good service to clients. 100%. And that's, for me as well, I think this is something that a lot of lawyers sometimes fall down on. They can be really good lawyers, but won't answer a client's call or respond to an email for a week. Yeah. So it's like, well, the client's just not going to be happy with that service. So I'm massively keen on me and all of my team responding really quickly to clients. If they want quotes, giving them and being clear on that. Even when there's nothing to update, sometimes I'll still speak to the client and say, look, we still haven't had a response from the other side to whatever this dispute is. We'll send a chaser, we'll keep you updated. And clients really appreciate you just knowing that you're still on it. And being proactive.
Yeah, I think there's two things. I think one is people just want to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
So even if you get an email, or someone in your firm gets an email, but they know based on their workload it's going to take 2 days to respond, just send that initial I'm going to be responding in 2 days.
Yeah.
I've got your email. That literally will settle people down.
Yeah,
And if they chase in between, then you can say, I told you it's going to be 2 days.
exactly.
Second thing I will say as well is being realistic about costs, especially with legal costs. I can say, I think RFB, when I've sent people your way for
Yeah.
conveyancing even, the initial cost tends to be a little bit higher than most firms. However, what I will say is they don't change on the back end.
Yeah,
So where some firms will quote lower
yeah,
and then add on costs on the back end for this, and this, that's never happened with you
Yeah.
guys. And that, I think, signposting, just being really transparent about this is how much I'm going to charge you. And
Yeah.
It's not going to change.
yeah.
That helps the customer journey just an awful lot.
I agree. And another thing I'd say, which I think helps, is I get a lot of abuse for this because I'm constantly on the phone, and I'll often be speaking to the clients on the phone. Whereas you get a lot of lawyers who are keyboard warriors,
Yes.
and you just can't get in touch. It's like, speak to the client, because you learn more about them. You work out, oh, this is actually what they're really worried about here, or there's all of this information that I wouldn't have got if I was just playing email ping pong,
Yeah.
which can take far longer anyway. And you just develop more of a relationship with the client. So I think that for me is a really big thing.
Yeah.
I spend my whole days on the phone.
But that's good though, because I think, again, with other firms or just lawyers in general, perhaps, there's a lot of gatekeepers. So you'll have the actual lawyer, but they'll have a paralegal, they'll have the assistant and this, and you rarely speak to the person you think you're dealing with.
Yeah,
And maybe it's not a bad thing because they've got a specific workload, but it's just having that conversation on day one. This is who I am. This is the hours I'm available. This is who you'll be dealing with.
yeah.
I think a lot of it is expectation setting from day one.
Exactly. I completely agree. And at least having some sort of point, because say, for example, if I'm not dealing with every case, so I'll have my team dealing with several different matters, but I supervise it, so I'm still involved, and I know if the client calls me, I'll have an idea of what's going on and be able to speak to them and then put them back in touch with whoever's, the primary point of contact. But just having that sense that the clients can still call me, and I know that I'm there and I know what's going on with it.
I think it's good you say that, because often as firms get bigger, you lose that kind of individual touch.
Yeah.
Which you don't want to lose, because people don't want to work with massive companies. They want an individual, right?
Yeah, it's relationships. There's where most of my stuff comes through. Still, even with all, but even LinkedIn is a sort of form of clients will come through there as well. But so much of it is just existing clients and word of mouth, and it's from the relationships you build with those clients. Just the same as, I'm sure it's the same with you, isn't it? I
have spent absolutely zero on ads likes ever, because it's all through brand. So it's podcasts, speaking, word of mouth referrals.
Yeah.
It's all one thing that.
Yeah.
Because people always say to me, "Do you get leads off social media?" And I'm like, "That's the bad question," because by the time someone does send me a message, they will also have seen me there. They may have spoken to someone else. So it's always 3 or 4 touch points.
Yeah.
And then they message me, and half the job is done.
Yeah. Agreed. And it's very similar for me, and it's something that I sort of want to keep even as we grow, because I can see that some of my team members, Faiza, and some others, they start to develop those own relationships with other clients. And I love nothing more than seeing lots of clients returning through different avenues. It's like,
Guys, just to stop you right there. So today's episode has been kindly sponsored by Ronald Fletcher Baker, RFB for short. So they are one of the top legal firms in the country, if I'm honest, doing this for over 75 years, providing all aspects of legal advice to clients in the property industry and just general consumers as well. So if you need to speak to RFB, just Google Ronald Fletcher Baker. And I think now we are getting more nitty-gritty into contracts and litigation. In your experience, when it comes to contracts, let's say, okay, I'll tell you what, because this is going to be the overlap. In my world, a lot of people lend other people money.
Yes.
They'll give a personal guarantee.
Yes.
Without really checking, does this person have any assets, for example?
Yeah.
There might be a 12-month loan agreement.
Yeah.
But the actual contract might say 12 months or however long it takes to do the project. Things like that.
Yeah.
So then 12 months come, they don't get paid back, and now they're stuck. Often it can be 25k, 30k. I know someone recently, £100,000.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, these people are scared to speak up about it online, and that might be because
the people who have lent the money are scared.
The people who are owed the money, they don't want to speak up and make it a social media thing.
Yeah.
Which to a degree I understand.
Yeah.
But they also don't want to go down the legal route because, the contract does say this. So what are maybe some of the things in contracts, in your experience, people miss and they shouldn't miss?
Yeah. So this is a really, the point you've just touched upon with defaulting loans is now one of the most common cases I'm dealing with. Bridging loans, for example,
Yeah.
the amount of times you will have, I'm seeing borrowers, for example, coming to me, and lenders actually, we act on both sides, so lenders and borrowers, where there's been a default. So term was 9 months or 12 months, exit hasn't worked out for whatever reason, they're in default, and the default interest starts accruing, which can sometimes be a jump from 1% per calendar month
double.
to double or triple,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5% per calendar month.
Suddenly becomes very inconvenient.
Compounding, yeah, it starts to go crazy. So in those circumstances, I think the first thing, it is worth speaking to a lawyer to check the terms, because often it depends which side we're speaking from, but from a lender's perspective, a lot of the time they will have reasonably clear terms that they can rely upon to enforce. But maybe you're seeing different.
No, I was going to say, especially with lender terms. So let's say the contract clearly says if you go beyond your 12 months or 9 months, we'll charge you a 5% renewal fee, and suddenly the interest will go to 5% a month.
Yeah.
And the client's had independent legal advice at the start as well. Is there any instance where that could still be considered an unfair contract?
Yes. So, and there's various potential arguments that could arise out of those scenarios, which we have currently ran or just finished on a few cases. So one issue in dispute a lot of the times is whether the default interest being charged is an unenforceable penalty clause.
Yeah.
So whether it's unconscionable, extortionate, to the extent that the lender shouldn't be able to demand it back and it should be wiped clean effectively. Wow. And that's arguments we've been running and dealing with on both sides of the fence. I did have a case recently, without going into any names or anything like that there, where a borrower borrowed about £6 million, 2000 and let's call it, I think it was 2015, 12-month term. Exit wasn't there at the time, so went into default. The lender exercised his powers of sale over 2 properties, got over 6 million back. But in that 2-year period, the default interest had accrued, and he left it then thinking, well, it was worth 6 mil, sold for just over 6 mil, it's fine. Went to refinance last year or the start of this year, maybe the end of 2024, asked for the redemption statement, and it was £35 million redemption statement.
Wow.
So we've been litigating that, and we've just settled it for a very favourable amount, under 200k.
Wow.
So there was all sorts of arguments being ran in that case, and there was various issues about security that was held, other security. But yeah, that's an example of one where it's a loan, a default, and ridiculously high interest rates can end up, or ridiculous amounts can accrue quickly, especially when it's compounded.
100%. And I think from my end, and with what I do with the finance lenders, my opinion anyway is that I don't think any lender goes in with the intention of having to take proceedings or force sales.
Yeah.
And if they are charging default rates, often it's because of the way they funded. They might have invested on the back end who are expecting in 12 months we're going to get the money back plus interest.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of unfair contracts. And I've always been of the opinion that, forced sale is probably the last resort, because it costs probably more to do that than just charge a default rate. But it's interesting, and you are getting good results by the sounds of it.
We had another one where I think it was an unpaid loan of 350,000, and we negotiated it down to 110,000. So it was a good result, and we got that quite quickly, and that was pre-action without having to go, get into actual litigation proceedings. But then from the lender perspective as well, like we are acting on behalf of lenders where, say, they're owed 500 or 600 grand. And I can see from their perspective, companies were going to pay, we got this plan, plan B, plan C, next week, one more, it's definitely coming next week. Wait, no, sorry, it didn't come the week after, I promise.
Yeah.
So at some point, I can understand, lenders have to protect their interests. Yes. They need to take their enforcement action, or else if they don't, they could be there 3 years later in no better a position. So, it's one where it depends on each case. But if one thing I would say is, and maybe you know this from your experience, when people are getting into some of the bridging loans, like, what's your perspective on satisfying yourself that they're going to have an actual way to get out of that bridge in 9 months' time?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my job as a broker is to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
And touch wood, no major disasters, but you do get some people who are, and it's the nature of people being taught on social media, online, that they can buy a property, become financially free, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is people who have no assets, no income, they've borrowed money from another investor, they've fostered the leverage to the eyeballs,
Yeah.
and what they can't, the deal works, but they can't afford any down valuations, for example.
Yeah.
So they come to refinance, it gets down value by 10%. Most deals, not the end of the world, but for this person who's now leveraged,
Yeah.
you can't pay everyone back.
Yeah.
That does happen. So then it's like, well, if you sell it, what will that look like? How long will that take?
Yeah.
But a lot of people who end up in trouble, they are the ones who don't communicate. So
Yeah.
they'll ignore our calls, ignore our emails. They won't communicate with the lender.
Mm.
Because I think lenders, in fairness, if it's, again, a 12-month contract, from month 6, they normally contact the clients anyway and say, look,
Yeah.
how are you getting on?
Yeah.
Do you need any help? They'll offer support, because all they want is communication.
Yeah.
When are we going to get our money back?
Yeah.
And are you on track? And if not, how can we support you? Is
Yeah.
what I think, anyway.
It is. It's a tricky balance for some of the people that go and borrow a lot of money, where the plan doesn't work out. I've seen it as well. I don't know if you've seen this on joint ventures.
Yes.
So when you get this mix of a joint venture with people who haven't done a joint venture before,
Yeah.
together with bridging, and relying on selling that property within 9 months or whatever it might be, the risks are high. Especially, let me add in another thing: joint ventures, bridging loan, personal guarantees equals a lot of risk.
Yes.
Because if anything goes wrong on the exit, I've seen this several times where people get really distressed.
Yes.
As a result of this. Their whole family assets or family home is at risk. Some almost pretty much fall into depression. So it can be a heavy situation where they don't properly appreciate the consequences if this doesn't go to plan. And it's a bit scary, because some of the JV partners, if one's going to, for example, renovate a bank into 7 apartments, then does that JV partner, can he do that? Can he deliver on that in time? It's some of these projects are pretty involved, nuanced ones, and what is the plan B if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
That's one. I'd say most weeks now I'm dealing with defaults on bridging loans, which is pretty scary. And often I can tell the clients who call are putting on a brave face and sounding quite composed and all the rest of it, but I can tell underneath they're actually in a state, and they're breaking it, and they're like worried about their family and their mental health and all the rest of it. So it's something where I do wonder as well whether at some point there would need to be some sort of regulation around either the start point of the bridging loans or the end point on default, because some of them just really did not anticipate the consequence after a default.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we will see even unregulated loans have some form of regulation.
Yeah.
Whether it's from the broker to give the advice they have to regulate, or the lenders, because, like you said, it's a lot of risk. What I want, David, if you can, is to give people a framework. So let's just say you have an individual who's lent another individual money. Like say they've got a loan agreement in place. They come to the end of the loan agreement, money's not been paid back. What can they do first at the start of that term to make sure they read the contract properly? What key things should they be looking in the contract? And if it comes to the end of the contract, they want their money back, but this person is either not responding or giving them excuses or saying, well, actually, the T's and C's, I can extend this. What options do they have? Can they speak to you at that point? Can we have a framework? Because this is happening a lot.
Yeah, it is happening a lot. I would say, first of all, get a good lawyer, and have in place clear terms about, number one, when the loan needs to be repaid, and exactly what will happen if the loan isn't repaid within, say, 12 months. So what are the enforcement options of the lender? Also, think from a lender's perspective, what other security do they want? Do they want a personal guarantee? Do they want any additional comfort charges? Does the person who's providing the PG actually have any assets? Do they have any county court judgments against their name? Because I've seen that happen before. Yes. With JV partners, etc. So check that there are assets there and have enough security in place so that if everything doesn't go to plan, you can then provide a nice suite of documents to a lawyer to say, here are my documents. Also have, in addition to the enforcement provisions, there should probably be something in there to say that if you default on your loan and I have to go to a solicitor or whoever, a surveyor, to incur costs, then those are going to be paid by the borrower, because I shouldn't have to be paying for these legal fees or surveyor fees because of your breach. So therefore, having a clause like that in will add protection and probably make those who have lent out the money a bit more comfortable about going to a lawyer in the event of a default.
Okay, I think that's on the front end, obviously.
On the front end, yeah.
On the front end as well, there is FCA guidance around raising money for investors, especially on social media. You can't just post on Instagram, which everyone does. I need 50 grand and I'll give you 10% return. Everyone does it, but you shouldn't. You need to be qualifying people as sophisticated investors. Do they have other assets themselves? Can they afford to lose their money? This sort of stuff, but no one does that. Also, there's guidance from the FCA around collective investment schemes. So if you have multiple investors for one property or one deal, suddenly that becomes a CIS.
Yeah.
And again, you've got to be regulated by the FCA to do that yourself, or you shouldn't. I'm regulated, so I can do that if you want. If you lend me money, great. But so I guess
that is an important point you touch on, because actually the point about ensuring that you are complying with FSMA regulations and the FCA regulations, determining whether your loan is actually a regulated loan, is really important. Because if you've lent out somebody £200,000 and there's a default on that loan, then if that borrower comes to somebody like me as a litigator, then we will be investigating whether or not that loan was in accordance with FSMA and the FCA, whether it was regulated and whether they've complied with their obligations. And if they haven't, it could be a difficult task in recovering, for example, any of that interest or even potentially some of the loan.
And then, so let's say on the end then, they've come to, so we've done the front end, but they come to the end, they're not getting their money back. They've got a pack of documents together. They come to you with a contract and documents and stuff that they've got maybe as evidence that lent this money, not been paid back. What do we do? What options do they have, and how realistic is it that they can get their money back?
Right. So I'll answer this on the basis that it's not a regulated loan.
It's just an individual to individual with a personal guarantee.
Right. So on that basis, I think first of all, what you said before, communication, I think will be the starting point. So if you can have a line of communication and resolve it without a lawyer, then that's preferable, because you don't have to pay any fees at all. If that fails and you're not confident that what the borrower is saying is going to be fulfilled, then instructing a lawyer to do a letter of demand and potentially then a letter before claim. And there's several routes we could take, and it would depend on the circumstances. One would be to issue a claim for a judgment, to get a money judgment against the borrower. Another one, potentially, depending on the loan documents, might be if there's security over say a buy-to-let or something, or whatever it might be, some sort of property, to potentially appoint receivers. Or another one is statutory demands, possibly, if there's no dispute at all about whether or not the loan is owed. That is the more aggressive end of the scale if you're statutory demanding, because that's then a precursor to either bankruptcy for an individual borrower, or insolvency for a company.
And again, as a layman, if this happened to me, I would probably just come to you and say, look, David, this is my situation. Can you help? Are you then able to say, this is maybe the route that we should go down?
Yeah. And usually what I would do is, in that scenario, is say, right, what the first thing we'd want to do is look through all the loan documents to see if we're on sort of firm ground, and then proceed with whatever enforcement steps.
And then
I'm not saying you default on
No,
your
no, no, of
loan.
course. But I'm trying to just obviously help people who are watching, because there are people in the situation.
Yeah.
If there's multiple individuals who've lent the same person money, potentially for different deals,
Yes.
does that help the cause if they all come together and say, look, we've got 5 people who've had similar situations, or here's all the different loan documents, we've not had our money back. I just want to say the word class action lawsuit, but is that what that would look like? Or
Yeah, yeah, but although that probably wouldn't qualify as a class action.
know.
But but the idea of that, yeah, if several people were owed money from one lender, then yeah, it would the advantage to all instructing one lawyer will be you're going to save on duplication of costs, because probably going to be similar terms in each of the loans, hopefully. And also if that lender has assets, because that's, do you know, at the start of some of these cases, that's one of the big questions, isn't it? Because you spend lots of money on me and we can run round and go to court and get all sorts of judgments, but if the person doesn't have money or a property.
I mean, let's just say, because obviously it's all anonymous and we're not talking to anyone,
Yeah.
but what I see and what people speak to me about is they've lent someone money,
Yeah.
but that individual doesn't have anything on paper on their name.
Yes.
They maybe lent it to someone else who's the front and owning the company. So technically, the personal guarantee that was given means nothing, because they don't have they don't own the asset. However, when I've dealt with bridging lenders before, and there's third-party investors involved, they make the investors sign a deed of subordination to say, "I'm just lending this money. I have no interest in the property." If you can see the trail of funds, so Jack lent Steve the money. Steve sent it to company A, who's in someone else's name, and they bought a property. You can see that clear trail. Could that be a case put together to say, well, this clearly was for that property?
It's going to be difficult, I think, in that scenario, because you have to follow the contract first and foremost. So if there's a contract between, for example, Jack and Stephen,
Yeah.
then if Stephen doesn't pay Jack back,
Which is what's happening.
yeah, then Jack needs to sue Stephen. That's who he's got his claim against. And now there might be, if we could, sometimes, if for example there's been some action by Stephen in this scenario where he's deliberately dissipating assets because he knows there's a claim, or we've issued a claim, and he's transferring properties out of his name into his wife's name and his sister's name and all the rest of it, then it's possible, or may be possible, to unravel those transactions if they were taken. Or same if a company was selling assets with a view to avoid creditors, then we may be able to unravel those.
Yeah, it happens a lot, and it's easy for me to say, well, you should have read the contract, or you should have done some due diligence. But when it's any money on the line and it's someone else's money, it's a lot of money to them, and you do feel bad. You are being done over. So this is really useful because they have options. They can speak to a professional like yourself to understand. And it sounds like you'll give them the true scenario that it's not going to work, or it's going to work. And
John, what I'll do, even if I speak to somebody at the start of a case, if I think it's a crap case and it's not worth their while, I'll just say it. Because what I don't want is somebody then going and saying, oh yeah, David Burns charged me this much money, and it was
cease and desist.
Exactly, yeah. And it was all a complete waste of time. I'd rather do something where I know, or at least if they're saying, well, I want to do this anyway, at least they've been given a clear warning. But there is this scenario that you're running through, every single week we're getting cases like that. So it is worth people it doesn't have to be me, but speaking to a lawyer and saying, like, is there something I can do? And the other thing that's sometimes worth doing in those scenarios is speaking to, well, we sometimes instruct private investigators, detectives, because sometimes people say they've got no assets or act like, but there may be some stuff there. And another thing is that even if they don't have assets, the borrower who's defaulted, but they're actually living the life.
Yes.
And they're driving around in a 2024 Mercedes or whatever. Then, if you statutory demand them, if say for example we got a judgment and you serve a statutory demand saying, okay, well we're going to make you bankrupt, then sometimes they find the money from down the back of their sofa.
Of course, yeah.
So sometimes a bit of litigation pressure can produce a result.
Okay, no, that's been, like I say, it's been very useful, and I think people are actively, like you said, having this issue. So hopefully they can just take something from that, which I really appreciate you sharing. David, in terms of growth and yourself, where do you see yourself and the company maybe 5-10 years? What's going to happen?
Well, John, we've just, I don't know if this is, I think I can say this. Yeah, we've just bought a new office in Holborn.
Oh, wow.
It's just right beside, it's on Theobald's Road, so it's close to Holborn Station.
Will there be a launch evening? Because even if there's an envelope, I'm coming.
You're going to be there. The envelope will be there for you. Don't worry, you'll be on the invite list.
Fine.
So that's a big part of our plans. It's a large building. It's got about, I don't know, 4 or 5 floors.
Is that to accommodate everyone all existing?
Exactly,
or to grow?
because we're in Baker Street and Old Street, but we want to sort of bring everyone together under one roof. That's the idea. And we may sublet out a couple of the floors initially, so that gives us room.
Maybe we can have a podcast studio.
Might do.
Yeah.
I actually might. Do you know what? One of the guys, we just hired a partner from JMW, the ex-managing partner, John Andrews, and he was talking about starting a podcast there.
There you go.
I will be returning the favour to you and bringing you back in with more paddle updates.
Definitely, that's good. So that's growth in the team. And what about you? I mean, what do you want to do with your life?
John, I seen you say that. You got some hard questions. These are to answer, to be honest. John, I still want to be competing in jiu-jitsu in 10 years' time. I want to have, hopefully, a bigger team. It's growing. I've hired 3 or 4 people in the last few months. So I'd like to see in 5 or 10 years, I'd like to see that double, if not triple. And then me doing less of the work, hopefully. Just out doing podcasts.
But I mean, and that podcast piece, do you think, because like you said in the chat, there's not many legal people on LinkedIn or just anywhere making a name or profile for themselves outside of just talking legalese on social media.
Yeah. Well, there is some though.
There's
I'll
some.
have to stack up.
No,
There's some that are
there's a
much
few.
fun.
There's the few. As in.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you're not filled up with
No.
lawyers on LinkedIn.
But do you think that's an avenue you'd want to take? Is to be a person of interest in your field?
Definitely. Yeah, I'm trying to do it more. I think I enjoy that side of things. I enjoy being sort of putting myself out there and interacting with people.
The accent helps.
The accent. Do you know what I was worried? I don't know if anyone can understand one word of this whole podcast. You'll need what do you
Welsh
call
word as well.
Subtitles the whole way through this are going to be needed.
Okay, David, look, it's been an absolute pleasure.
No,
Finally, we got this done.
Thank you.
Please share your contact details and
I will. It's David Burns. Just connect with me on LinkedIn, I think, or Google me. Google David Burns RFB, and you'll find me.
So that's been David from RFB. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Peace.